People always like to talk about who's the greatest, who's the GOAT, and I don't like those discussions because different eras, different players, different rules. So I had that kind of confidence.
You're not Michael Jordan. You're not the GOAT. You did choke in an NBA Finals. 4 consecutive fourth quarters in an NBA Finals. This man was scoring 4 points. One game, he scored 0 points. In an NBA Finals, fourth quarter. With Jason Terry or J.J. Barea guarding you. There is no explanation for that to anybody who knows basketball.
Larry Bird recently set the internet on fire with 5 blunt words that shook the NBA world. Stop pretending you're the GOAT. The Boston Celtics legend didn't soften the statement or try to make it sound polite. Instead, he delivered it with the same cold confidence that defined his career. His comments immediately sparked a massive debate about LeBron James and his place in basketball history. This wasn't just a random retired player making noise. This was Larry Legend himself stepping forward and challenging the crown many believe belongs to LeBron. At first, the moment didn't explode right away. It began quietly, almost unnoticed, before quickly turning into one of the biggest basketball controversies of 2025. Bird, who built his reputation on fearless trash talk backed by elite performance, finally addressed a topic that many fans whisper about but rarely say openly. LeBron James calling himself the greatest of all time. In an exclusive interview in January 2025, Bird didn't simply question the claim. He broke it down piece by piece. Leaning back with his trademark calm confidence, he said that if LeBron wants to be part of the conversation, that's fair. But he shouldn't act like the debate is already over when the numbers still tell a different story. When Larry Bird speaks about basketball greatness, people listen. He isn't someone chasing headlines or social media attention. He's a 3-time NBA champion, a 3-time MVP, and one of the most clutch players the game has ever seen. When he suggested that the crown might be too big for LeBron, the basketball world instantly reacted. Social media erupted, with LeBron supporters defending their superstar and accusing Bird of being bitter or out of touch. Meanwhile, Bird supporters came armed with statistics, finals records, clutch moments, and comparisons across different eras. What started as a simple comment quickly turned into a full-blown debate across the basketball community. Bird's main argument centered on championships, the ultimate measure of success in the NBA. On the surface, LeBron's 4 titles compared to Bird's 3 might seem like a clear advantage. But Bird argued that numbers alone don't tell the whole story. He believes the real questions go deeper. How those championships were earned, who the competition was, and whether the titles were built through long-term team chemistry or through strategic moves between franchises. Bird pointed out that he won all 3 of his championships with the same organization, the Boston Celtics, alongside the same core teammates. There was no switching teams or resetting the situation. In contrast, LeBron won his 4 championships with 3 different franchises: Miami, Cleveland, and Los Angeles, each time joining or forming teams filled with star talent. Bird made it clear that during his era, players didn't call rival superstars to team up. Instead, teams built their identity through loyalty, chemistry, and development within the organization. The Celtics of the 1980s were built around Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish, forming one of the most legendary frontcourts in NBA history. Together, they battled against some of the strongest competition the league has ever seen, including Magic Johnson's Lakers, the Detroit Pistons' Bad Boys, and Julius Erving's Philadelphia 76ers. Every playoff series felt like a heavyweight fight. Bird believes those battles helped define a legacy built on stability and loyalty. From Bird's perspective, LeBron's career took a different path. By moving between teams to chase championships, Bird believes the journey looks more like ring hunting than building a long-term legacy. He also brought up the 2011 NBA Finals, when LeBron's Miami Heat lost to the Dallas Mavericks despite being heavy favorites. For Bird, that moment remains a significant mark on LeBron's record. In his view, the greatest players don't disappear on the biggest stage. Bird compared LeBron's finals record to other legends. LeBron has reached the finals 10 times but holds a record of 4 wins and 6 losses. Bird finished with 3 wins and 2 losses, while Michael Jordan famously went 6 for 6 in the finals. Bird's argument was simple. If someone truly deserves the title of the greatest of all time, they shouldn't leave the biggest stage with more defeats than victories. However, Bird didn't stop his critique at championships and statistics. He also questioned leadership. According to him, true leadership isn't about changing teams when situations become difficult or shifting blame when pressure rises. Instead, it's about standing firm, carrying your team through adversity, and proving your greatness when the stakes are highest.
People always like to talk about who's the greatest, who's the GOAT, and I don't like those discussions because different eras, different players, different rules. So I had that kind of confidence.
You're not Michael Jordan. You're not the GOAT. You did choke in an NBA Finals. 4 consecutive fourth quarters in an NBA Finals. This man was scoring 4 points. One game he scored 0 points. In an NBA Finals fourth quarter. With Jason Terry or JJ Barea guarding you. There is no explanation for that. To anybody who knows basketball.
Larry Bird continued by explaining what leadership truly means in basketball. According to him, leadership is built on sacrifice. It's about elevating the players around you and delivering when the pressure is at its highest. Bird emphasized that great leaders shine not only through their own performances, but also through the success of their teammates when the spotlight is brightest and the moment feels overwhelming. Bird used his own career as an example of that philosophy. He explained that he didn't just focus on scoring or personal recognition. He worked to make the players around him better. Dennis Johnson flourished alongside Bird and eventually became a Hall of Famer. Kevin McHale developed into one of the greatest post scorers in NBA history while playing beside him. Robert Parrish was already a strong player, but with Bird leading the Celtics, Parrish reached another level of excellence. Bird said that his leadership came from being unselfish, passing when teammates had the better shot, setting screens, and doing the difficult, often unnoticed work that helps a team succeed. Then Bird delivered one of his sharpest criticisms. He acknowledged LeBron James' incredible ability to produce statistics, but he suggested that when things go wrong, explanations often follow. According to Bird, blame sometimes shifts toward teammates, coaches, or the front office. This criticism ties into a long-standing narrative around LeBron that he has significant influence over roster decisions behind the scenes, almost like acting as a general manager. Bird argued that a player cannot claim to be the greatest of all time while also influencing management decisions such as trading young talent for veteran players who fit a short-term championship timeline. In Bird's view, that approach is less about leadership and more about control. He believes that if a player has the power to shape the roster, then they must also accept full responsibility when the results fall short. The topic of LeBron's influence on team decisions has been discussed for years. During his time with the Miami Heat, Cleveland Cavaliers, and Los Angeles Lakers, there were frequent reports about his involvement in roster construction, supporting certain coaches, advocating for specific signings, and encouraging trades that prioritized immediate success. When those strategies stopped working, teams often faced major changes. Bird contrasted this with his own career path. He spent his entire NBA career with the Boston Celtics, trusting the organization and its management to build the team. In his view, greatness comes from commitment, staying with one franchise, building chemistry over time, and competing with the players you start with rather than constantly reshaping the roster. For Bird, true legends don't abandon their teams or rewrite the plan mid-season. They compete with what they have, and if they fall short, they accept the result and keep fighting. For Bird, the debate isn't just about statistics or championships, it's about mindset. Even with LeBron's many accomplishments, Bird believes that this mentality doesn't completely match what he considers the true standard for the greatest player of all time. Bird then moved into another controversial topic, the differences between eras of basketball. He argued that the competition during the 1980s and early 1990s was incredibly intense, filled with Hall of Fame talent across the league. Teams like Magic Johnson's Lakers, Isaiah Thomas's Pistons, Julius Erving's 76ers, and stars like Moses Malone and Dominique Wilkins created constant battles at the highest level. According to Bird, every game during that period felt like a war. There were fewer teams in the league, meaning elite talent was concentrated across the rosters. There were no easy matchups and no opportunities to coast through the season. Every playoff run required defeating multiple legendary opponents just to reach the championship. Bird compared that environment to LeBron's prime years in the Eastern Conference. While he acknowledged that LeBron's 8 consecutive finals appearances from 2011 to 2018 were impressive, Bird questioned the level of competition in the East during that time. He pointed out that many of the teams LeBron faced were strong but not dominant dynasties like those he battled in his own era. Bird mentioned teams like the Atlanta Hawks and the Toronto Raptors before Kawhi Leonard joined them, suggesting that the path to the finals was less difficult than the battles he experienced. During Bird's championship pursuits, he often had to defeat teams led by Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and James Worthy just to have a chance at a title. From Bird's perspective, Context matters when evaluating greatness. While LeBron's achievements are undeniable, Bird believes that the competitive landscape of the earlier era made every championship run far more demanding. Larry Bird continued his argument by emphasizing the difference between dominating a conference and surviving true competition. In his view, simply reaching the NBA Finals repeatedly isn't the same as battling through the toughest opponents every season. Bird pointed out that while LeBron James made many finals appearances, his record on that stage doesn't always reflect dominance. For Bird, ruling a weaker conference is not the same as fighting through a league packed with powerhouse teams. If a player loses when the stakes are highest, Bird believes that becomes part of their legacy. To him, that doesn't represent the flawless resume expected from the greatest player of all time. The conversation then shifted to the long-standing debate about physicality between different eras of basketball. Bird openly stated that he believes the modern NBA is softer than the game during his playing days. He clarified that he wasn't claiming LeBron couldn't succeed in the 1980s, but he doubts LeBron would dominate the same way. During Bird's era, hand-checking was legal and defenders could use much more physical contact on every possession. Games were not filled with quick fouls and whistles like they often are today. Bird acknowledged LeBron's incredible physical gifts, standing 6 feet 9 inches and around 250 pounds with elite athleticism, but argued that if LeBron played in an era where defenders could constantly lean on him, the conversation about dominance might look different. Bird also focused on the importance of context and competition. He believes his own path to success was steeper because of the constant battles against legendary opponents. However, beyond physicality and competition, Bird highlighted something he believes statistics cannot fully measure: intangibles. According to Bird, the reason many fans still consider Michael Jordan the greatest player ever is not just because of his 6 championships. It's also because of his mindset, his relentless drive, his killer instinct, and his refusal to let opponents breathe when the game was on the line. While Bird praised LeBron's basketball intelligence and called him one of the smartest players ever, he questioned whether LeBron possesses the same ruthless mentality displayed by players like Jordan or Kobe Bryant. In Bird's view, those legends had an unmatched desire to close games and eliminate any chance of a comeback. Bird even compared that mentality to his own approach during his playing days, recalling how he would sometimes tell defenders exactly where he planned to shoot from, and then make the shot anyway. To him, that wasn't arrogance but confidence, control, and psychological dominance over opponents. Bird argued that LeBron approaches the game differently. In his opinion, LeBron seems more concerned with maintaining a positive image and making the correct basketball play rather than imposing his will in the biggest moments. Bird suggested that true competitors don't worry about being liked, they only care about winning. That difference in mentality led Bird to question LeBron's approach in clutch situations. The clutch debate became another major point in Bird's argument. He acknowledged LeBron's legendary performance in Game 6 against Boston in the 2012 Eastern Conference Finals, but he also questioned how often LeBron has chosen to pass the ball rather than take the final shot himself. Bird contrasted this with players like Kobe Bryant, who always wanted the last shot, even on nights when he struggled. To Bird, that fearless desire to take responsibility defines greatness. Sometimes, he argued, the best play isn't the safe or textbook decision. It's taking control of the moment and forcing the outcome. Bird also discussed how players handle pressure. During his time with the Boston Celtics, he never asked to leave the team when things became difficult. Instead, he focused on improving and solving problems with the teammates he had. In his eyes, that mindset, adapting, fighting through challenges, and staying loyal, is the true blueprint of greatness. For Bird, the most important qualities that define the greatest players, clutch instinct, mental toughness, and leadership, don't always appear in statistics. But he believes those intangible qualities are exactly where the biggest difference lies. In his opinion, that is the area where LeBron falls short of the ultimate GOAT standard. Bird's comments have now ignited a massive debate across the basketball world. Fans and analysts are choosing sides, turning the conversation into a generational battle. Interestingly, LeBron's camp has remained silent so far. There has been no direct response, only workout videos, business updates, and the usual calm, professional presence. But to many fans, that silence feels meaningful. When a legend like Larry Bird publicly challenges someone's claim to being the greatest of all time, not responding can feel like giving ground. Among fans, the divide is clear. Older generations who grew up watching Bird, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan largely agree with Bird's perspective. They believe LeBron is an incredible player but not the greatest ever. Younger fans, however, strongly defend LeBron. After watching him dominate the NBA for more than 2 decades, they argue that his 4 championships, multiple MVP awards, and unmatched longevity prove his place among the greatest players in history. LeBron James' career achievements continue to fuel one of the biggest debates in sports history. He is the NBA's all-time leading scorer and has maintained an elite level of performance even at the age of 40. His resume is filled with accomplishments, championships, MVP awards, longevity, versatility, and remarkable consistency. These factors make his case for the greatest of all time extremely strong. However, the discussion about the GOAT title has been ongoing for many years, and it remains one of the most passionate debates among basketball fans. What makes the current moment stand out is the source of the criticism. This isn't coming from a media personality or commentator looking for attention. Instead, it's coming from Larry Bird, one of the greatest players in NBA history. When a legend of Bird's stature openly questions whether LeBron deserves the GOAT title, the conversation carries far more weight. His opinion represents the perspective of an earlier era of basketball, and that creates an interesting tension between generations of fans and players. The situation raises a deeper question about legacy. If legends from previous generations reject a player's claim to being the greatest, does that weaken the argument? Or is it simply a natural cycle in sports where each generation protects the heroes it grew up watching? Throughout history, fans have often defended the stars of their own era while comparing them with the next wave of superstars. Bird ultimately made it clear that he still believes the GOAT title belongs to Michael Jordan. In his view, Jordan's perfect 6-0 record in the NBA Finals, combined with 5 MVP awards and an unmatched killer instinct in the biggest moments, sets a standard that remains untouched. Until another player equals or surpasses that level of dominance, Bird believes the throne will remain with Jordan. At the same time, Bird acknowledged that LeBron James is unquestionably one of the greatest players to ever play the game. His achievements, impact, and longevity place him firmly among the all-time legends. However, in Bird's opinion, being one of the greatest is not the same as being the single greatest. This perspective has intensified the debate among basketball fans around the world. Some agree with Bird and believe Jordan's dominance and finals record make him the clear GOAT. Others argue that LeBron's longevity, versatility, and ability to perform at an elite level for over 2 decades make him the most complete player the game has ever seen. In the end, the debate remains open, and opinions are deeply divided. Some fans stand firmly with Bird's view, while others passionately defend LeBron's legacy. One thing is certain: the conversation about the greatest player in basketball history is far from over, and it continues to spark intense discussion across generations of fans.